having an independent cinema is kind of crucial to, particularly kind of breaking the box that you're in, right?
Sharing and seeing a lot of different work and points of view is of value.
There are a lot of different words that need to be expressed, and there are a lot of cultural groups that are really starting to speak loudly. And if they can get their film shown locally, all the better.
The community has been outstanding. One of the things that makes me most excited about continuing in this work is seeing our audience every week and watching films with them. This is the Carbon Arc Cinema. It is a 74-seat auditorium with a booth, which is especially helpful for putting on a presentation of a film. I did a partner screening with the Museum of Natural History, and they had this space that we're in now that was only being used internally, and they were looking at the possibility of opening it up for the public use. I would love to be the place where people go and there's always something of interest playing. It's not a money-making venture, so really it means convincing funders of the value. And so part of my mission in doing the do-it-yourself version was to grow the audience. I really hope that we are able to open full-time in the next few years.
I moved to Halifax in 1986. I started at the art college, I transferred there. And in April of 1987, friends of mine at the art college said, "Hey, you want a part-time job? They're hiring at Wormwoods." And I actually had never been to Wormwoods, so I thought, sure, okay. So I went to Wormwoods, talked to Gordon. Gordon said, sure. So I worked there part-time until, I think, January of 1988. And then Gordon and I became business partners, and it's on from there. When we were down on Barrington Street, we just had ticket sales and projection. So I became a projectionist, and you would sell the tickets on slow nights and run the film. Then when we moved up to Goddardson Street to the Carpenter's Hall, we set up a concession stand, and then I became popcorn salesperson, ticket salesperson, projectionist, worked on the writing and layout of the cinema guide, pretty much everything. Oh, and garbage. I also took out a lot of garbage.
I got a job when I was 21 at the Film Board. That's where Wormwoods was. It began at the Film Board's theater, which was initially the Family Theater, and then before that it was the Nickel Theater. So it was one of the first cinemas in the city. This man, Gordon Parsons, decided that, since there was a 16 millimeter projection system all set up and ready to go, that he would see if he could operate it there, and the Film Board let him use it for nothing. Wormwoods worked out of that space for some time and then moved 2 doors down to 1588, which was the Khyber building, where it was co-located with the Film Co-op for a number of years. They then moved to the Carpenter's Hall, which was at the corner of Gottingen. Wormwood started in 1976 and 1977, and then went on to last until 1998. So it's almost 20 years.
Wormwoods was, when I started there, it was just a community icon. It was just, there was so much more to it than just showing a film at 7 o'clock and at 9 o'clock every evening.
Wormwoods was a place that I quite enjoyed going. I have a lot of great memories in that space, absolutely.
We were plugged into the community, and when Gordon passed away, I wouldn't say that it just stopped, but the enthusiasm to do it all Everyone just seemed a little quietly depressed about the whole thing, so it was tough after that.
Well, he died, I think, in 92 or 93, and Wormwoods lasted until 98. So, in fact, it kept going for another 5 years. But in some ways, what he built up was so sturdy, it took 5 years for it to run down. Once he was gone, it was difficult to get things done. He's one of the very few people I know who made something out of nothing.
But he just kept doing it for the love of film. So it takes a special brand of crazy to keep on doing that, pushing that rock up the hill as it rolls down over and over again. I had to leave because it wasn't, I couldn't contribute anything to it anymore. I had nothing left to give, so I left.
Well, the Oxford was part of a chain, the Odeon chain. It was the last single theater in the city. And when they finally sold it, there was a great kind of a heave of nostalgia and regret, I think, amongst the audiences. But the reality is that the audience had, to quote a certain Bolshevik, had already voted with their feet a long time ago. The Paramount was on Barrington Street, actually just across the street from the Family Theater, the Film Board Theater, and next to it was the Capitol Theater, right? So the Capitol Theater was the grandest, and I think it was at least 1,000-seater. So it was quite a, and it was really ornate. It was a really beautiful, beautiful place. But the Paramount hung on until the late 80s, early 90s. And it was a Famous Players, right? So Famous Players was the big established chain.
I think everyone should do it. Anybody with a garage should have their own cinema going until the neighbors complain, because there's no reason that you shouldn't.
Robiscope is an intersection between my two favorite things, beer and movies. Maybe they've taken away our local spaces, but we create our own. This could be a model for like future cinemas. People who happen to like film and maybe have a contact or own a bar or a restaurant or a coffee shop or a library. No matter how big or how small, it can be a cinema.
Well, we're getting to the point where 4K is kind of a standard household standard, right? We're just in itself a kind of an amazing thing.
If people have the money to create their own cinema experience at home, why would they ever go out? But with that, we lose that sort of feeling of community, which is what cinemas have given us for generations. And we're losing that, and we're not even thinking twice about it.
I find that for me, seeing a movie with an audience is so much more powerful and memorable, and I'm able to give more attention to that experience.
And there's still a need for people to go out and witness and experience this all together. So, on one hand, Netflix is kind of eroding this, and the streaming is eroding that, but it's not going to get rid of it completely.
And I've always had fond memories of going to the movies and having those shared experiences.
Digital projectors are relatively inexpensive now. You can have your own garage cinema. You can have a backyard cinema. My wife and I have cinema on our deck in the summers. Screen goes up, projection equipment comes out, and we sit on the deck and we watch movies on our deck in the beautiful outdoors until the neighbors complain about the noise being too much, and then we shut down. Should Halifax have another Wormwood cinema? The time has passed. I think there should be a Wormwood cinema in every backyard in the city, honestly, or a front yard, or parking lot, restaurant, it doesn't matter. People should just start showing stuff.